On the morning of March 8, 1943 year, in a beautiful villa in the city of Hammamet on the shores of the Mediterranean Sea, several military officers were sitting around in the spacious and bright living room, but none of them was in the mood to enjoy the rare beauty of the morning. One of Nazi Germany's generals, known as the Desert Fox Field Marshal Rommel, sat in the center of the crowd. He swept away the former prestige, looked incredibly frustrated. He was surrounded by 6 close officers, and a young soldier is not much better, sitting down in shame. It turned out that Rommel led the Afrika Corps, recently suffered heavy losses, but also by General Montgomery led the British desert troops surrounded. 3 days ago, Rommel gathered his only remaining 140 tanks, a desperate attack on the Allied forces, in an attempt to regain the initiative on the battlefield. The result not only did not get the desired victory, but also fell into a more passive situation. Seeing that the fate of the war was irrevocably lost, Rommel began to discuss with his men how to deal with the large number of treasures looted one after another from all over the world. In earlier times, Rommel has repeatedly considered to dispatch of treasure through the Tunisian city by sea to the south of Italy. But the situation on the battlefield is changing rapidly. Rommel's plan has not yet had time to implement. The British Army has completely gained control of the region sea and air. German ships no longer have the means to cross the Mediterranean Sea. Rommel was very anxious, afraid of this batch of treasure fell into the hands of the opponents. Therefore, early in the morning to convene his men to discuss how to deal with this batch of treasure. After careful study, Rommel, known for his cunning, decided to take the strategy to hide the treasure in the safest place in his opinion, that is, the desert near Duz in southwest Tunisia. Duz is a small town on the edge of the Sahara Desert, a small oasis on the desert, around which are countless sand dunes of similar shape and size. Even if the wind blows hard and the yellow sand rolls, it is difficult to change the shape of these dunes. If the treasure was buried somewhere between those many dunes, it would be very difficult for people to find it. That night, Rommel sent a fleet of high-speed speedboats with dozens of boxes of art treasures he had looted from museums and the palaces of Arab sheikhs, ready to be shipped across the Mediterranean to Italy. British intelligence agencies, which had been closely monitoring Rommel's every move, immediately took action, sending a large number of bombers and warships to the sea to search for these treasure-laden transports. At the same time, Rommel immediately dispatched a convoy of about 15 to 20 military vehicles, each loaded with gold coins and exotic treasures, escorted by Rommel's most trusted officer, Colonel Hans Niedermann, and disappeared under the cover of darkness into the boundless night. The caravan drove as fast as it could along the dirt road toward the desert, where, according to the original plan, the treasure was to be unloaded at the town of Duz, and then transported by a fleet of camels to a safe place among the dunes to be buried. But the convoy was lost from then on, and the anxious Rommel was given to death by Hitler before the war was over. No one ever knew where the treasure was buried under the dunes. More than 30 years later, Heinrich Suter, who was acting as a photographer with the army, recalled the story as one of the people involved in the incident. He said that a few weeks after the convoy departed, British radio broadcasts claimed that British troops had met a well-armed German unit on the edge of the desert near Duz, and that after a day-long battle, the British had wiped out the unit without a single German soldier surviving. It is estimated that the squad was sent back to join its unit after a mission to a remote location. Suter believed that the annihilated squad was the personnel who had gone to hide the treasure, and that they were ambushed on their way back to Duz and all were killed in action. Therefore, where exactly Rommel's treasure was hidden became a difficult mystery. However, it is difficult to determine the veracity of the story because it is only Suter's version of the story. Was Rommel's treasure really buried in the desert after many years, an American named Ken Klippen was interested in this story. In order to verify the authenticity of Suter's story, Klippen took the opportunity of a vacation in Tunisia, specially to the city of Hammamet and the town of Duz for about a month of field work. In the face of Krippen's inquiry, many of the elderly residents of the town of Duz did not know about the caravan and camel caravan of that year, but there was an old man named Yusuf in his 70s who said that in that year he was doing business in the camel market, and had sold 5 camels to a group of foreigners with his own hands. The old man remembers the incident clearly, not only because these people bought 60 to 70 camels in one go and offered a higher price than usual, but also because it was the first time he had seen blonde-haired people, all of whom were wearing military uniforms, but he didn't know in which direction these people had left the market. Another old man, Mohammed Saidi, remembered that some trucks drove into their village around that time, and then the men went nowhere, and after a few weeks a group of British soldiers came to their village and drove the trucks away. The results of Krippen's expedition seem valuable, but he is also speculating on the basis of Suter's story, and there is still a good deal of doubt about the whole story. If Rommel's treasure was really transported to the desert and hidden, then where did the huge camel caravan of treasure go, whether there were really no survivors, and whether that batch of treasure was really still somewhere in the desert undiscovered? I am afraid that only the endless Sahara Desert knows the whole truth.